And thank you for watching this video. Today I'm going to show you how to use Peardeck to enhance and make your Google Slide presentations more interactive, more engaging for your students. This does also work with PowerPoint. However, I recommend using it with your Google Slides because it works really well with Google and their slide application. But the first thing, just like I've been saying, is you want to use Google Chrome because it is more compatible with Google and it'll make it easier for you. But you can use it with PowerPoint. So the first thing you can do is you will go to Peardeck, and if you notice here, you have a few windows here, boxes. But the main one we're going to focus on today is this create a lesson. So go ahead and open up our Google Slide file here, and you'll notice it is going to be exactly like the Google Slide files that you used in the past. If you've never used Google Slides, it's really not too complicated to learn, and I'm sure you'll pick it up pretty quick and you'll be well on your way. So here we are, you're at your front, and you can see that it's exactly the same as Google Slides. But the first thing that you're going to do is you need to add the Peardeck add-on in order to make your slides interactive. The good thing about this as well is you don't have to create new presentations. You have presentations that you've already created on Google Slides. You can go ahead and just, as long as you have the add-on, you can go ahead and make those slides interactive, make those presentations interactive. So you don't have to recreate new slides if you've already done so. But you can create new ones on Peardeck if you want. So the first thing you're going to do, again, you want to go to the add-ons. And I already have it, but if you don't have the add-on, you would just go right here where it says Get Add-ons. And it should appear right away in the first page. There it is, because it's one of the most popular used extensions now. So you download it and you're good to go. Since I'm already downloaded, I'm ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get started. Just going to go ahead and get rid of this one. Two slides, that's all right. And the first thing we want to do is we want to open up that add-on. So we click on the Peardeck, and here it is. And this is what is going to give us our presentation, and that it's going to make our presentation stand out. So the first thing here on the right-hand side, we have our template library. And this is where you're going to find pre-made templates already. And they have it broken down into different categories. And you can also ask students, create your own and ask students a question. So you can do it either way. However, like for example, if you already have your slides already created, this would be where you want to go, because you would just then add what you want to add to your existing slides. But if you're creating a brand new one, you want to start here at the template library. But these are the types of choices that you have when creating your slides. You can have a text slide where you can ask your student questions and they would have a text box where they would respond. You could do multiple choice, numbers. If you wanted to type in just a certain number. This is good for math, maybe history, but science, it's good for anyone. But again, you'll see some math samples here in a second. You also have, if you want to insert a website into your slide, this is where you would do that. You want to have your students draw something, or maybe an object, whatever it is that you want them to draw. This would be the app. And then you also have a draggable slide option where you create icons and you want your students to drag these icons to different parts of the slide. So those are your options, and all these options are found here in the template library. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the template library, and this is where you see the lesson builders. And they broke it up into three categories: beginning of the lesson, during the lesson, and end of the lesson. Then they do have a couple more down here where it gets specifically into different content areas. Now, the good thing about this is, if let's say you're a science teacher, but you find a slide that you really like in the math section, you can use that. It doesn't have to just be for your specific content area. You can sample from all the other ones as well. So that's kind of an added plus there. So depending on what you teach, here it is. But what I'm going to do So I'm going to go here to the beginning of the lesson. We're going to kind of create just a little mini lesson here to start. So what you see here is you have different options, and this is a good way for you to maybe do a bell ringer as they're walking in through the door, or maybe as you start your lesson. But regardless, this is a good way to get that prior knowledge. What do they know about the subject matter that you will be discussing in your lesson? So you can ask that in different ways, but usually the way that you can do it is the text slide here. You have this one here with the student thinking, or the student here on the rock. So I'm going to choose that one. And this is what your students would see. And again, you can edit your question however you like, but this is a good way to tap into that prior knowledge. And then down here, it's telling you what your students will be doing on this slide. So they're going to be typing in. Now, at the end of the video, at the end, when I'm done with the presentation, I'm going to show you the student view and what your students would look like, because I've created one already for my class that I'm just going to act as teacher-student, so you guys would be able to see both and see their perspective and also your perspective on what you're going to see while you're doing this lesson. So as you see here, depending on what you might want a thumbs up, thumbs down on the prior night's homework assignment, whatever it is. You give the option of your students just do a thumbs up, thumbs down. It tells you what they would be doing. This would be a draggable slide. So again, it goes back to those different categories that I showed you at the beginning. But most of the ones at the beginning of the lesson are going to be text slides. This one, they can draw, or they can also type if you want them to tell you what they already know about the topic that you'll be studying. So after you set up the beginning of your lesson, now you want some slides for as you get going in the middle part of your lesson. And again, you want a text slide. Maybe you want to do a kind of like check for comprehension, check for understanding as you're going through the lesson. So you have a quick question. Students can, on their devices, they would choose true or false. I use this for my Spanish class, but I just changed it to cierto o falso, so you can adapt it to if you teach other foreign languages or to your content area. But again, another way to make sure students are paying attention, engaged in your lesson. Another way to do that is a draggable slide. Is you have the option here of they can drag and they can tell you how they feel either about the lesson, maybe how are they doing during distance learning. It's a good way to find out how your students are doing. But this one is created to find out if they're understanding the lesson. So keep going, I understand, I'm a little confused, or stop, I need help. This one will help you as a teacher because you get that instant feedback and you can tell if the lesson is going well, the lesson's not going well, students are picking it up, which students are not picking it up. So maybe you can do some individualized instruction to that set of students, or if you really need to and you get a lot of students who are saying, I need help, go back and reteach something that they're not picking up. So this slide is not only good for your students, but it's good for you as a teacher because you get that instant feedback on how the lesson is going as well. So this is just other options that you can have. Instruction slides. These are good too. These can be done also for the bell ringers. As they're walking into class, you already have it projected and the instructions will tell them what to do. Or right before they go on to an activity in the lesson, this tells them their directions. Is also good for those students that need to go back and reread the directions. They have it there on the slides and it's all right there. But you can put these in the beginning of the class, the beginning of this presentation, or in the middle of your presentation right before you can start an activity. And I'll show you an example that I have. And the last one is our end of the lesson. You want to wrap it up. You want to see what did your students learn? What is it that you hoped for them to learn? And you have different ways of finding that information out. But, one way could be question slide here where it would say for your students, pretend your friend was absent from class today, write what you would say if you had to explain it to them. So it's a good way for them to summarize the lesson. Again, you have a draw or type, 2 things you learned. This one is also good to get back the feedback. Gives them 4 different categories for them to tell you what they liked, what they didn't like, what was easy, what was hard. This is good too because sometimes you get those students that are maybe a little shy in class to actually give you this type of information. So they're able to type it to you and you get that good feedback from your students, so you can go back and have to change your lesson if you have to, or maybe your students will tell you the lesson was great, you don't have to do anything. So another good way of getting that feedback from your students. And then again, the last part is in more draggable slides, however you want to do it. So this is how you would create your slides. And then you also have like world languages. I'll just show you some samples. They have matching, draggable. You want to fill in the blank. You have them translate something. So that's for world languages. You have social studies. Again, if you're a world language teacher and you find something that you like here, you can use it. It does not have to just be specific for your content area. Where you can see for math, you have some few options here as well. And again, you can apply this to ELA, science, however you like. Just change it for a timeline. For history class, could be a good way for that as well. So a lot of options for you to make these presentations interactive. So now that you're done creating your lesson, now you want to start. Now you want to share that lesson for your students so they can log in and be ready to go. And the way you do that is you hit start lesson. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up one of the lessons that I created so I can show you the student's perspective as well as the teacher perspective. So when you go to the home, all the sessions that you have created are going to be right here in your sessions board here. And I'm going to show you here the virtual field trip that I created for my students during distance learning. So let me open it up. And what's going to happen is it's going to open it up here and it's going to give you two options on how you want to have the lesson. And depending on if you're going to be doing a live lesson in the classroom or if you're going to be doing a live lesson on the computer, it works both ways. So you could do the live session. Live sessions are good because again, you're there, you get that instant feedback, and you can see what your students are doing in real time. Student paced, it's good for those. Maybe they're in a cohort, or maybe you're not meeting every day, so you assign it on Monday, do on Wednesday. It's also can be done in class, or you could even do it for distance learning, because even when you're doing distance learning, you have some students that even if when the teacher is the one running the lesson, you might be going too fast for them. So it still gives them that opportunity to go at their own pace, finish the lesson. You can still set a deadline even when it's student paced or a live session. So either way, it's good. But today I'm going to just go and I'm going to use a student paced. So the first thing you do is I would click student paced, and it's going to create a unique code for your students to be able to log in. And that code is shareable. And what you would do is if you already have Google Classroom, you just share it right to your Google Classroom to the class or classes that you have. If you don't have Google Classroom, you could just project this right here where it would be joinpd.com and it gives you the code. So once again, you can project that, but I'm going to go ahead and open up an incognito window and we're going to go there. So we're going to go to join. And it takes me to the enter the code, and I don't remember the code here. Let me just. Okay. There you go. Enter the code. Now, if your students. What happened here? Oh, I got the period. Did not see that. Now, if your students are already logged in, it will take them there. But if not, they will have to log in to their student account or whichever account they have set up. Usually it's their school email. And now it's going to open up. So it asks your students how you're doing. And your journey will begin shortly. But I'm also going to, again, I'm going to show you what it's going to look like on your end. So if I go back here to the teacher, I go to my teacher dashboard, and here's my dashboard, which is the presentation. But if you notice over here, and this is where it's good for you, it tells you who is on and who's working. So there I am. But as you move, the student moves along, you keep going. This is good for you to see which students are engaged, and it actually tells you which student is on what slide. So it's really good for you to have information on which students are doing the work, and either whether it's student paced or whether they're doing it in the live version. That is what you will see. So pretty good for us teachers to keep track of which students are doing the work and which students are not doing the work. So now if I go back to my incognito, we're going to start. I'm going to show you the different types of examples. Now remember, the first one was that draw and that the type slide. So here it says 2 things you already know about Mexico. Now, I'm not that great of an artist, and I always tell my students it doesn't matter, but I'm going to try to draw to the best of my ability like a pyramid. Because they have, the pyramids in Mexico, and it looks kind of like a telephone. And then I'll do my sundial over here. Again, your students would be on their devices doing the drawing, or if they can't have the drawing capability, they can also do a text box. So they would click here, and they would just do a text box. And then sundial. So either way, however they want to do it, they would be able to do that slide. Once again, it was another draw or type. Now, this one is an example of the draggable slide. And here I ask the students to either drag these dots to cities they've been to in Mexico or cities they would like to visit. So you can engage all of them in every slide, because some students had never been to Mexico, so at least maybe they know of some cities they want to travel to. So the students would just drag these icons over. You create the icons, how many you want, what kind of image you want for the icon. So they just keep dragging it, and finally they're done. And if I go back to the teacher view, you'll see now when I click on the first slide, this one, now I'm here, there I am. So now you see I've moved on to that slide, but now there you see that all 5 of the icons that I now have moved. If you have more than one student, you do the grid layout, and you would have every single one of your students up here and what they did. So once again, you're able to keep track of them, make sure they're staying on task while they're either at home or even in the classroom. So it doesn't matter where you're conducting your lesson, you can keep them on task. So that's an example of the draggable. And just to show you a few more, here's another one where the icons are different, but same concept. They would drag those icons. Here is an example of a multiple choice question. So what region is Mexico in? So they would choose. Go back over here. You will notice, click on here, and then as your students are starting to answer, you will see who's getting it right, who's getting it wrong. Good way for you to get that instant feedback right there. And then a couple more examples here of what your students see. Now here's an example of the instruction slide. So in the middle of the lesson, I had a couple activities for them to do where they were going to take their trip around Mexico. And this is an example of a text slide where I inserted a video, which you can do from Google Slides. So I inserted the video for them to watch and then answer questions. The video will open up in a different window, but it's going to be right there so the students can keep going back and forth to see the questions, or just watch the video, and then they would type out their answers here as they were watching the video. So I had a few examples of those text slides there. And then the last slide I wanted to show you was the website slide. So part of the virtual field trip included a air pano or panoramic tour of Mexico. So my students were able to travel to different parts, different cities of Mexico. And again, you can see it here, but it doesn't matter what website. This is an example of the website slide, but it doesn't matter what website you put, it will appear. So it doesn't have to be like a air panoramic tour. It could be a video. It could be anything you want. This is just an example of the website slide. So here, and then again, if you notice over here, I'm now down to the last slide, and it tells you again who's on it, what students are there, and so forth. And then the last one that I had was the last was another reflection for my students, and they were able to type out what they liked for the lesson, what they didn't like, what was easy and what was hard. Good way for me to understand exactly how well the lesson was, and I was able to make corrections for my next class based on what the previous classes had given me. So really good way to get that instant feedback. And the good thing about Peardeck is, again, like I told you, it works on PowerPoint, it works on Google Slides, and also you get I believe they still have it where you get 90 days free when you sign up if you have never signed up before. But right now with the pandemic going on, a lot of these companies are giving free subscriptions to schools. So talk to your administrator, talk to whoever's in charge of buying these learning systems and these platforms for you guys to use, because again, it's a great tool. It could be used in any content area. It does not have to just be for your exact content area. It's open to everybody, so any administrator can see the use for that. I hope you learned, and again, the best way is just get started, play around with it, and before you know it, you'll be an expert, and your students will like you for it. They'll be engaged. It'll engage you as well. Make the lessons fresh and just a new way, and a way for you to present the information through distance learning, or even when you go back to the classroom. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Good luck to you this school year, and take care. Make sure to hit the like button as well. And again, have a great school year.